So what is the name? So Ron asked me one day, what is that? So I needed to give a name to the talk, right? So that is not just inviting people to a talk. So Sun Talk, it was perfect for me because it means Sunday talks about wisdom and knowledge. So the fun fact is that talk with W is a dialect from New York City
Huh.
that refers to talk with L, right?
With an
So
L, yeah.
all right, so we need just a couple of rules. I mean, I've written some kind of guidance for this talks. So basically, we're not debating till death about anything. We're just sharing. And if someone doesn't like it, well, that's okay. But we're not spending the hour debating, right? Simple is better than complex and better than complicated. I know that there are a lot of material articles that explain things, but we prefer videos and things that are simpler and not complex error. So, open-minded. If you are in this talk, you should be open-minded. Politics and sports, we're not covering that. Religions, just a little bit, because we're going to talk about history, so just a little. But we're not, again, covering extensive religions of any sort. Um, the objective of this is to share information and experience, and for us collectively to raise our consciousness. All right. All right. So I was thinking about how should I start this session. So the way I came up with was, well, let's start from the beginning. So from the beginning is the beginning of the universe. So I'm gonna just talk about two points of views. All right. So I'm not gonna talk the whole hour about this. So the first theory that is widely accepted is the Big Bang. I'm sure you have heard about the Big Bang. It starts with the theory that the the universe was high density in matter and temperature, and somehow there was this huge explosion. All right. So I have something that I like better because I think it's simpler, and I'm gonna read it to you. I hope you can read my screen. And this comes from our friends in Atlantis, or this is from Thoth the Atlantean, 36,000 years ago. So he says, in the beginning there was void and nothingness, a timeless, spaceless nothingness. And into nothingness came a thought, purposeful, all pervading, and it filled the void. There existed no matter, only force, a movement, a vortex, or vibration of the purposeful thought that filled the void. In the beginning, there was eternal thought, and for thought to be eternal, time must exist. So, into the all pervading thought grew the law of time. Time which exists through all space, floating in a smooth rhythmic movement that is eternally in a state fixation. Time changes not, but all things change in time. For time is the force that holds events separate, each in the proper place. Um, Time is not in motion, but ye move through time as your consciousness moves from one event to another. By the time you exist, all in all, an eternal one existence. Know you that even though in time you are separate, yet still are one in all times existent. Couple more. The flame is the source of all things, containing all things' potentiality. The order that sent forth light is the Word, and from the Word comes life and the existence of all. And again spoke the voice, saying, the life in thee is the Word. Find you the life within thee and have ownership or use of the Word. I'm gonna jump that. I'm gonna jump that. So there is one, even the first, who had no beginning, who had no end, who hath made all things, who governs all, who is good, who is just, who illumines, who sustains. Okay, this is the last one. Only by wisdom can you hope to be free. Knowledge brings wisdom, and wisdom is power. Attain, and you shall have power over them all. All right. So that is my introduction. Sorry. Um, all right. So now the second topic that I wanted to bring to the table, and excuse me, I mean, normally if you want to talk about something, the only rule is that you have to share it with everyone so everyone can see it before the meeting, right? So that all of us can read about it. So I didn't send you this before, but the rule is share and so that everybody knows what to ask. Now, the second topic that I sent you on an email was about if we talk about the beginning of everything, how about talking about the beginning of the mankind, right? So for that, um, there are two main channels, or let's two main histories. So one is religious, what religions tell us what was the beginning, and lately the Sumerians tablets and the Akkadians and the Babylonians have their story, which is very interesting because any gaps on one, you can fill it with the narrative of the second one. So, so far so good. Ron, any questions?
No, I'm just listening. Thank you.
Okay. So basically, um, the thing about religions, and I'm not going to talk about the religions, but the thing is that many books on the Old Testament in the Judeo-Catholic were removed, and it's more like 30, right? So what that caused was gaps in the narrative of the story of the religions. So I had many questions. First question that comes to mind is, where did slavery come from? Where does the king and queen and royal blood comes from, right? Because to me it was not clear. It was not clear where does that come from. And the forever fight between evolutionists and creationists, right? Like who is correct and who is incorrect, where there's no evidence of I mean, the evidence that there is that something happened and the Homo sapiens converted into human in no time, right? So how is that? How is that going to happen? So so I read, and I watched these videos that I like, again, I like videos more because I think I learn more visually and listening than just reading. So, so I learned that the Sumerians tablets, which are now more translatable than 30, 40, 50 years ago, because we have the internet, and the knowledge can be shared, and so you can be more precise on translating the tablets. So, so the story starts 450,000 years ago. Um, the race is called the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki lives in the planet 9 or planet X that everybody's looking right now, uh, called Nibiru. So basically, their planet was dying of gas and volcanic eruptions and all sorts of things, and they needed to find a solution quickly. So so basically, Enki, which was one of the Anunnaki lords, uh, figured out that what they needed was gold to be released on the atmosphere, and and because gold has very good properties about cleaning the air. So and that was my other question that I have. What is the reason why everybody is looking for gold for so many years? I mean, gold is only practical today in electronics and many things that we do. But 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, there was no need for the gold. I mean, there was no practical use. So so they said we need to find in the solar system somewhere that we can find gold. So they sent probes, and they found that the Earth had lots and lots of gold. So they said, okay, let's move it. So 300 Anunnaki came to Earth with 600 Igigis. Igigi was a race that was enslaved by the Anunnaki, and they were brought to mine the gold from the Earth. So it's a long story, but I'm gonna try to make it short. So the problem with the mining the gold is that it's really hard, and the Gigi rebelled. So so the Anunnaki said, well, how do we create a species that do not rebel, that not very intelligent, that can help us. So Enki again said, well, there are this Homo sapiens and Homo erectus that looks like they can work with tools, and we can use it. So and because they were very advanced, the Anunnaki, they knew how to deal with DNA. So what they did was take an embryo of the Homo erectus or Homo sapiens and mix it with their own DNA. So that's how the first man on Earth appeared, and they call it Adamu, which is man of Earth. And then they created Eve, the girl. But that's not the whole story. My other question that I always had is, how did all the races start? How all the human races start? So they didn't only create one race, they created 6 races and placed them everywhere in the globe, like the white, the black, the yellow, the brown, the Amerindians, and I'm missing something. So yeah, so they created all the races, and created us as slaves. So that's my answer to my question. Where do we come from slavery? Is because we were created for being a slave. So any questions?
I guess a quick question. The so the universe is obviously pretty large, and there are a lot of planets in the universe. I guess as the theory goes, and uh, I'm just curious. Do you think that it's very possible that you have planets out there where evolution worked its way with life, and you had intelligence and advanced beings that just grew from evolution and didn't occur because of any particular interference from any alien race. But do you think that there's intelligence out there and that just worked its way through because of evolution? Reached a certain point where you had very intelligent, life without, let's say, interference at all. Let's say on another planet. In other words, is it conceivable to you that you don't need an alien race really to get to high level intelligent beings? It could sort of just go on its own if you have the right conditions on a planet. I guess is my question.
Right. Well, let's dissect that in two things. One thing is what I believe or what I've seen with my own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is what the news and the high powers want you to believe. There's two different things, right? So if we if the information was allowed to flow like 50 years ago or 60 years ago, that would answer your question, right? But the thing is that information is kept secret and confidential, right? So just remember that, because one thing is what they allow the information to flow, and the other is what I believe. And do I believe in other civilizations, advanced civilizations? Yes, I've seen it with my own eyes. So the universe is gigantic. I don't know how to call the universe. It's just. Have you seen like the Webb's telescope did like a very tiny square on the sky, and they found millions and millions of galaxies. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The size is just mind-boggling, right? So the thing about advanced civilizations is that they've been here a long time ago, and they left, and they come back, and they left. The thing is that they don't intervene. Each race has to learn. It's like you with your child, right? When you deal with your child that is it has had an accident or an injury, you go like, well, you need to learn, right? You need to learn not to do that so you don't do it again. So same thing here. Humanity is at its infancy of stage where we need to learn, and as I said, that goes back to what I'm showing you there. Only wisdom can help you, make you free, right? And the only way to get to wisdom is through knowledge. So the more knowledge we have, the more we can progress. Does that answer your question?
Well, let me ask my question a little bit of a different way. The You talk about the idea that in order to create humans, there was sort of an interference that took place with the Anunnaki that created the human race. What about the Anunnaki themselves? Do you think that they developed just by evolution, and there was no interference with them. There was no other aliens that interfere with the Anunnaki. Are they in your conception? Is it that particular form of life developed by evolution?
Might be.
Okay.
Nobody is wrong, right? They could be at their height of evolution, and it can be through evolution and not through intervention.
Okay, that's my question. That answers my question.
Mhm.
That you can actually have, just based upon pure evolution, a development of a pretty advanced form of life and intelligence, and you don't necessarily that could happen without, let's say, interference from some other civilization from some other planet. They could just develop on their own.
Remember that we have a case. Remember that I said race, white, black, yellow. There was one race that was the red, and the red was the basis for the Atlantis race that developed super quick, and they reached like a very advanced civilization level.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but you just have to remember that the universe in our own measurements is 13.7 billion years ago,
Yeah.
right? And we have evidence of spaceships that were billions and billions of years old, stuck in the moon. So basically, life and intelligence developed many years ago, billions of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
Well, I think that raises a question.
Sure.
Where does the Anunnaki come from?
What we know is that the Anunnaki comes from the planet Nibiru. So if you look at the news, it's all over the place. Everybody looking for Planet 9 or Planet X. So they come from a planet, the only planet on the solar system that has a different trajectory around the sun, because all the planets and everything on the solar system, they revolve on the same plane, but the Nibiru doesn't, and it comes near the Earth every 3,900 years ago. Hey Justin, thank you for joining.
How's it going, Leo?
Very good. We're recording, so you're not gonna miss anything, because you're gonna be able to go back and watch it
Okay,
again.
cool.
We're touching some very interesting topics. We're talking about. I mean, I started with the beginning of the universe, and then the beginning of mankind. So Ron was asking me about how does intelligent beings develop? Is it through evolution or is intervention? So I was saying that we know that intelligent life, out of the 13.7 billion years of the universe age, it's been around for billions of years. So we're not the first and we're not the last, but they've been around for many billions of years.
And you're talking about within the Earth, or you're talking about something a little bit beyond that?
Beyond that, yeah. I mean both. On Earth. As I was talking about the Anunnaki, that they came looking for gold because their planet was dying. So they created mankind to be slaves to mine the gold. But we've seen evidence of alien technology and alien people billions of years ago. There's a video that I have that I can share with you. In the Apollo 17, there was a secret mission between the U.S. and the Russia to go and take a look at a ship that it crashed in the other side of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
The ship was 2 miles long, and it was like a cigar. So, have you seen the Uma? The same shape.
Okay.
But that ship has been there for many, many years.
And where do they find it?
Oh, picture in the other side of the moon, on the dark side of the
On the
moon.
on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, on the other side of the
Floyd
moon.
was singing about when they did the dark side of the moon. Was it the lost ship? That was a joke.
I was
The
gonna ask.
famous album Dark Side of the Moon. I got you. I was very fascinated by someone shared a video about the commonality of certain symbols that were found within early cave paintings
Yeah.
in Europe. So
Mhm.
those date back about, I think, at least 40,000 years.
Mhm.
I don't know if those were all done by Homo sapiens or some of them were Neanderthals. But this, I'm not sure if maybe she was an anthropologist, but archaeologist, I guess it would be,
Mhm.
was hypothesizing that there could be a common origin. Maybe some of this stuff dates back to Africa, and kind of the evolution of symbol-based communication, and I guess what would become language and art.
Yeah, we're slowly discovering that there's a lot more advanced ancient civilizations that everybody thought, right? So so we have in I think it's some talk, some drawings on the caves that were like circle and many heads around.
Mm-hmm.
So so basically we have to stop thinking that ancients were really really dumb or really really not sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true, right? So they were. I mean, all the pyramids in the world built by them shows how advanced they were, right?
Right.
And you know what a pyramid does, right?
You tell me. What do you believe a pyramid does, or what does a pyramid do?
It's a gigantic power generator.
Is that so?
Why?
I always thought that it had to do with their veneration of their pharaohs and their gods, and it had a religious component.
No.
You know, saying it has to do with power generation. I think for sure it is emblematic, or it's an indication of a level of mathematical development, right? Like
Right.
you can't. You have to have a certain level understanding of
Right.
Geometry.
Yeah.
There was that other video about the Pythagorean theorem, the Pythagorean triplets is what they called it in Sumeria. So anytime you have any of those complex structures being built, they had to have had an advanced understanding or more advanced understanding of math.
Did you like Nikola Tesla?
I didn't watch that video.
Okay. Nikola Tesla created something similar to a pyramid. The tower that he created.
Uh-huh.
It was a gigantic energy machine. And there are pyramids everywhere, even in Antarctica and Mars. But the thing is that they let's call it they don't want you to know, right? But yeah, I mean there are pyramids even in Mars. So it's very common to find those pyramids and now that Antarctica is melting, it's showing up pyramids in there. So
In Antarctica.
in Antarctica, yeah.
And who is it that uncovered those pyramids in Antarctica?
Google.
Google.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a hypothesis as to why there are pyramids in Antarctica?
I mean, the most basic hypothesis is that ancients lived there when it was not what it is now.
Hmm.
Because you know the Earth can rotate, right?
Right.
So at some point, million years ago, there was no ice in Antarctica.
So you're saying that essentially the tilt of the Earth was different than it is now, and that impacted the weather or the climate.
It can be, yes. And you know that the magnetic poles are shifting, right?
Hmm.
And right now it's shifting a lot. So yeah, that can change. I mean,
Well, I guess that
it's a cataclysmic change. It's not a oh wonderful we're changing nice no, but it can happen and it has happened. I think there's recordings that it has happened before.
So I think Ron was saying he's about to say something.
oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking that I guess though it's interesting because mathematics is sort of like the language of the universe. It's almost like a universal language. I would imagine that even if if you postulate that, let's say pyramids are energy sources, whether they are or whether they're not, if they are an energy source, is it my understanding that you're saying that it would probably follow the laws of physics, right? That it would be consistent with the laws of physics. Like it wouldn't be some sort of exception or aberration. If you found a new energy source, you just would say that should be encapsulated in our theories about how things work,
Hmm.
both from physics and mathematical point of view.
I think that it works maybe part physics that we don't know about that we're learning. But yeah, I mean, definitely is not a tomb.
Okay.
It's not a tomb. It's they've analyzed many pyramids, and they all have the same basic elements. Like they have water running underneath. So basically, the way it works is that the sound and the vibrations of the earth can be read by the pyramid and converted into energy. And as you know, I mean, this we're talking about 0 point energy. This can generate energy like for everyone free. But every scientist that has discovered 0 point energy is not around anymore because someone doesn't want you to know that there's 0 point energy.
What is 0 point energy? What does that mean?
It's a device can generate tremendous amount of energy forever.
Okay.
That's what it's called 0 point energy. So it will be the fix to every problem in this planet Earth. But yeah.
Kind of like fusion.
Well, that's an interesting word. Thank you. I've discovered many people trying to recreate fusion, right? Not
Mhm.
fission, but fusion.
Right.
Trying to replicate the sun. But it turns out that going back to the universe thing, uh, some people call it dark matter, but there's no such a thing of dark matter. They just put it a name. What there's in the universe, plenty of it is plasma. So some guys in Canada in a secret facility, they created a chamber and wanted to do an experiment. They wanted to fill the chamber with plasma and run an electrical current. And do you know what happened?
What happened?
They created the mini sun.
It created what?
A mini sun.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Meaning that it was just generating a massive amount of energy, heat, light.
Right. From plasma and electric current. So it turns out the universe is not about gravity. The universe is about electrical current that permeates everything. And the plasma is the medium where quantum physics now tells you that light speed is slow.
Now remember that Hermes Trismegisto, or Thoth, has said that under the Sphinx fall, there is an enormous amount of energy that can be used by all the Earth
Mhm.
with no need for nuclear explosions, nor, well, nothing special. The energy is there.
Yeah.
The energy has been there for many thousands of years.
Yeah.
We are just trying to discover it. I hope that sometime we do. Yeah, I say that because well, my age is running short, and don't laugh. Leonardo is laughing because if you don't know, he is my son. Trismegisto or Thoth says that there is a lot of energy as a reserve and ready to be used. The question is, when are we going to use it? Or when are we going to discover it?
Yeah, correct. The thing is that there are two forces: the ones that we want to know about it, and the forces that don't want us to know anything about it.
I would interject there briefly. In terms of government that tries to, for whatever reason, tries to cover up something that relates to energy or science. What's difficult is that I guess you can do that for some, perhaps for some period of time, but in a planet as diverse as ours,
Right.
where you have about 7 or 8 billion people, and you have lots of scientists working all over the world, looking for the next greatest thing. It's hard to stop science. It's one thing for one government to try to cover some, but it's difficult to, when you have a lot of, again, a lot of scientists all over the world looking deeply into things. It would require some level of cooperation to cover up completely certain things. It would seem to me that it would be kind of a difficult task at some point.
Did you know that there's a law signed in 1950s that the U.S. government can withhold any patent that they deem national security?
That wouldn't totally surprise me. There are certain things that don't surprise me, like when they killed the electric car, because you have various different powerful organizations, whether they've controlled, they're part of the oil industry or the tire industry, or, well, actually, the tires aren't affected, but the oil industry, other industries would try to buy up things and try to sort of shelve certain technology from coming into existence because it would be competitive. And I get that concept, but in terms of science, though, in terms of patents, it's hard to stop science. It's just because it's so pervasive. Everyone's working on things. Everyone's working on trying to figure out various things that they're researching. It's just, to me, it strikes me as difficult to fully stop things that are going on all over the world, because, we might be able to stop something here in the United States, but it's not going to stop Switzerland from doing its research or France from doing its research unless there's some special cooperation that seems to me would be very difficult to achieve. At least that's my sense of it. But I'm open to this subject. I understand the government likes to keep certain things under wraps or for whatever reasons, but it's just hard to. All I'm saying is that my point really is that it's hard to stop science.
Well, now even more because of the internet. Because I mean,
Right.
before it was kind of easy, but now the information flows better with the internet, and it's harder to stop it.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I mean, the recommendation is for scientists to, instead of holding to their discovery, really to share it with the world instead of be tied to it here. So
now I am suspicious about internet because that network is kind of a repository for lies, politics, which are the worst liars. I am suspicious about the internet. I have to read 1, 2, and 3 times everything in the screen in order to say, well, that may be or maybe not.
That's a good point. I think part of the problem that people around the world are grappling with is the democratization of information, democratization of a lot of industries. Take the music industry. Anyone can put out music or content, videos, entertainment. These so-called influencers, social media.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be certain standards that were upheld in people that were kind of arbiters of, okay, this person maybe has talent, this one clearly does not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can now, same is true with, I think it applies to sharing information. Anyone can create a website, anyone can create a social media page, can create a video that looks like it's professionally done and get their point of view out. And there no longer is like a standard. Mm-hmm. It's like the standards have been, so there's a beauty in that democratization, that anyone can now have a voice and can be a part of a conversation. But the downside is like, it's like whole thing of should social media platforms be remove, what content should they be removing? At one point, does that then impinge on freedom of speech? But I think without getting into a political conversation, I think what it comes down to is that people are grappling with what you just said, Julian, which is, how do we know what's true and what isn't? Anyone can go in there and put out whatever they want. Whereas it used to be, if you wanted to, present something or get published, you had to go through a publisher. There was a whole process. You had to be connected to the university. You had to publish so many essays. And then people would say, oh, this guy, now anyone can put it out, right? Like I remember after 9/11, there were all types of crazy conspiracy theories that came out. And there was a very popular documentary done by a group of high school students that had no background in engineering and science and geopolitics and construction and anything that would have made them remotely qualified to put out a documentary on such a complex and sensitive topic. But they did. And they did a good job in creating content that appeared to be believable. And I think that's what everyone is kind of grappling with, is like, what's real? What is not real? When you don't have those, there are no longer controls in place, and anyone's saying, right, okay, you're gonna be on Newsline, you're not, right? Because you're just some guy that rolled out of a cave. This guy's a brilliant person. That's no longer the point, and it ties into kind of, I think, Ron's question, like, and what Julian, what you were just saying about like trusting what's on the internet. Yeah, you have to be very skeptical of what you see on the internet because a lot of it is bullshit, right?
Right.
Because any of us can. I mean, I've put out videos. I created a YouTube channel for fun. You know, anyone can do it.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there is a lot of bullshit in the internet.
Yeah.
Some of that bullshit is very interesting, though. on like on the flip side of it, right? Like some of it's very interesting.
I mean, like everything in our dear planet. I mean, there's the good side and the bad side of everything, right?
Mm.
So internet has the good side, and of course has the not so good side, especially when it comes to misinformation, right? That is being used to move people to vote this way or vote that way. And I'm not gonna get into politics,
Totally.
but
Yeah.
but anyway,
Totally.
so yeah. But I think the good are winning more than the bad. So
What do you think about the evolution of deepfakes and generative AI and how that's going to further muddy the waters? Like you can create a video of
yeah,
take the four of us and create a video of us doing anything,
right.
right? And unless you're an expert or have access to certain technology, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is that going to do? Like that, I feel like that's just going to add an additional layer. And we saw it with like
Well,
bots.
the thing is that the law has to catch up. Okay, so because right now the waters are very muddy in terms of AI. So that needs to be squared off at least here in the U.S. And everything that you use AI, you need to have evidence that you click the camera, right? That you give it a command and it gave you a response. You have to keep all of that. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, going to your question is hard. It's hard. I mean, some deepfakes are like so good. You're like, how do you tell from the real thing?
I'm shocked that it's even legal and that they're proceeding with this stuff without more controls, without some type of a doesn't seem to be any oversight. They're like, oh, this is great for entertainment. It's like,
Right.
oh my God, no. Like,
Yeah.
even if you have an educated, country and that's citizenry that's well educated and capable of critical thinking, it's going to throw all of that into chaos.
Right.
And how do you? I mean, maybe we then go back to old school books and libraries and old medias because people won't be able to. You won't be able to trust so much of what's coming out.
I think that what is going to happen is just because you create some technology that can do the fake. It's like when viruses came out. Then there's going to be someone that can create the technology to detect it and fix it. So that's the way it has been done before with viruses and Trojan horses and
Right.
all of that JC thing that is so many that I cannot count. Um, yeah, there must be a way to detect that and to say no, that's fake.
I actually interviewed with a company. I know someone that works for an AI company that does just that, not for generative AI, but for content like writing. And they have I forgot the name of the company, but they have a free tool on their site where you can copy and paste anything and it'll tell you whether or not it was written by a human. And I tested it like 10
Right.
10 different ways, and it was able to identify stuff that I had
Yeah.
written by ChatGPT. So
Something the Turing test, almost like that.
Yeah, I've seen that many years ago. I mean, by the eighth word, it becomes unique to you.
elaborate.
When you're writing,
Right,
when you actually write your own stuff instead of copying it,
right.
by the seventh or eighth word, it's already known that it's yours.
Okay, it's detectable. It can be, there's a pattern of
Yeah.
sorts.
Yeah,
Okay.
you have a style. You have a style of writing.
Mm.
So it can be and it's very easy in the internet. You can find copycats really easy.
Interesting.
Okay, guys, 7:52. We're gonna start wrapping up.
We're coming short of time.
Yeah, I know. I said at the beginning, 1 hour is sometimes not so
It's not enough.
much. It's not enough. Yeah.
This subject started with the Anunnaki, and look at us. Now we're talking about
Yeah, we talked
science
about
today.
the
And I
universe.
find absolutely interesting this kind of talk.
Thank you. Yeah, we talked about the universe. We talked about Anunnaki coming and creating the human race, and I think we touch every topic important
My,
right
own,
now.
my only observation is I thought this talk would be conducted in Castilian.
There's
No,
another talk. It's called Snacks, which is in Spanish.
I am absolutely glad to try to speak English. As you can see, that's not my mother language. And I enjoyed it. Different accents, different opinions. I love it.
Right. So we have another talk, and this is once a month, and another talk which is in the Spanish, which is called Snacks, which you can look in the website. And all right, any final comment, opinion?
I guess my final comment is one thing that sort of drives me is practicality. For example, in your comparing gravity versus like electricity or two different theories, the nice thing it seems to me about science is that whichever one works better. I mean, you can attack it, you can see what you can predict from it, how useful it is. From my perspective, if one works better than the other or enhances something, great. But that's really that's one of the things I love about science is that it's supposed to attack things and then try to improve them and make improvements along the way, and it's a never-ending process.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I really love so much about science, because it's like at the end of the day, it's like, what can we do with this? And that's really one of the science's greatest strengths.
I like that point.
Thank you, Ron. Yeah.
That you framed it, you said it's a never-ending process.
Yeah.
I think that's often lost on people that science is it's a process, right? The process for verifying. I think the medieval definition of science was, at least that I was taught, was knowledge of causes, the idea of establishing causal relationships between different phenomena.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a process, and it's not written in stone, right? It's you're controlling, you're trying to prevent confirmation bias, right? When you first thing you learn in statistics is you're disproving the null hypothesis. That's a guardrail against confirmation bias, right? And then you're trying to you're utilizing a control and you're trying to control for different variables to establish what is the relationship between 2 or 3 or 4 different things, and then peer review is the final one, which is essentially maybe you're just completely have your head up your ass, but other people will be able to give you feedback, and it's that process that's given us so much. It's not what one person says. It's not what's in any given textbook. Something at some point goes from hypothesis, you've proven it, then it's scientific law. Then anything can be disproven eventually. It's the process that's the constant, I guess.
Yeah, and it's almost like the other thing is humility is so important, because if you're too arrogant and you believe too much in your own theories and are not willing to attack them and test them, then you sort of fall into a potential trap. So humility works pretty well, I think, in science.
There's a very notable and interesting philosopher. He was a scientist and philosopher named Karl Popper.
Yeah,
Believe me, you know of him. I remember learning about him. I bought one of his books in the last few years because I thought it was so relevant to so much of the stuff that's been circulating, in people's kind of inability to distinguish between theory versus, you know, what is true theory. Like, what is true theory? What is just someone's what would you say, opinion, right? Like what makes something a theory? And I think the way he encapsulated is that something that is truly a theory or truly scientific in its approach is something that can be disproved.
Right.
Right? That's like kind of like one of his big contributions, if read at a very high level. Like if you can't disprove it, you know it's a conspiracy, or you know it's cult thinking, right? So if someone's putting out a theory and you say, well, here's evidence to show that echinacea does not actually shorten colds, and then there's like there's like some other bizarre thing that they interject into the conversation, into the math, and you say, wait a minute. You said that echinacea shortens colds. We tested it on different groups. Some people were taking vitamin C, some people were taking nothing. We controlled for all these variables. We proved it wrong. When you can't prove it wrong, it's that's your bullshit detector should be going off.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
guys, the call is about to end. Thank you so much for
That was
our
fun.
first session. I hope you liked it. And
Yeah, thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Invite Leo.
uh,
Appreciate it.
say hi to everyone.
We'll do. Good
All
night.
right.
And what